Skip Bayless was afraid to praise one Caitlin Clark.
Skip Bayless just said something crazy about Caitlin Clark. He's feeling guilty for praising her because he's a red state white guy. Can you believe that? Let's talk about why a sports commentator is scared to give props to one of the best players in the WNBA right now.
I felt guilty saying so on TV or on social media. I did not want to look like this red state white guy cheering for this red state white girl.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Imagine this. Skip Bayless, one of the biggest names in sports talk, is afraid to say nice things about Caitlin Clark. Why? Because he's worried people will think he's just supporting her because she's white. That's insane, right? He's actually torn between doing his job and worrying about how it looks. You know what's crazier? This whole thing blew up in his face. People weren't happy with Skip's comments, and he had to change his tune. We're gonna dig into all of that drama and what it means for sports talk. Get ready, because this story is wild from start to finish. While Skip was busy backpedaling, Caitlin Clark was busy breaking records. How did this rookie manage to silence her critics and dominate the league in ways never seen before? Let's dive into the Clark effect that's taking the WNBA by storm. Caitlin Clark's rookie season wasn't just good, it was historic. She didn't just play well, she rewrote the record books. Clark broke the WNBA single season assist record, dishing out dimes like they were going out of style. But that's not all. She also pulled off 2 triple-doubles, something no rookie in WNBA history had ever done before. 1 triple-double? Sure, impressive. But 2, that's next level stuff. Now, you might be thinking, okay, she's good, but is she really changing the game? Well, let me tell you, Clark isn't just playing basketball, she's bringing fans to the sport in droves. WNBA attendance up, TV ratings through the roof. We're talking games pulling in over 1 million viewers. For the WNBA, that's huge. It's like Clark has some kind of magic touch that turns every game into must-see TV. But here's the thing, success always comes with a target on your back. And boy, did Clark feel that target. Opponents weren't just trying to stop her, they were trying to stop her hard. We're talking physical plays, hard fouls, the works. It was like watching a rookie get thrown into the deep end of the pool with weights tied to her ankles. But did Clark sink? Nope. She swam, and not just doggy paddle, we're talking Olympic level freestyle here. All this domination on the court, it didn't just impress fans and boost ratings, it made even the toughest critics sit up and take notice. Remember Skip Bayless, the guy who was feeling all guilty about praising her? Well, Clark's game was so undeniable that Skip had to come out and say it.
Skip Bayless felt guilty. Let me ask you, why are all you white people trying so damn hard to be something you're not?
Caitlin Clark is becoming the best player in the entire WNBA, not because she's white, but because she's that good. That's right, Skip Bayless, the same guy who was tying himself in knots over praising a white player, had to admit that Clark's talent transcends race. He called her skills colorblind good and guilt-free good. It's like Clark's game was so fire, it melted away all of Skip's hangups and left him with no choice but to give credit where credit was due. Just when you thought the Clark saga couldn't get any wilder, the conversation takes a sharp turn. What if I told you that praising Clark's skills could be seen as controversial? The basketball court's become a political arena, and not everyone's playing by the same rules. Angel Reese just dropped a bombshell about Clark's fans that's got everyone talking. She said, "I think there's a lot of racism when it comes to it." Whoa, that's heavy stuff. Reese isn't just calling out fans, she's pointing out a whole ugly side of sports we don't like to talk about. Now you're probably thinking, wait a minute, how can being good at basketball be about race? Well, that's where things get complicated. Since Clark and Reese's rivalry hit the spotlight, people can't stop talking about race. It's like every time Clark sinks a three-pointer, someone's gotta bring up the color of her skin. Skip Bayless, the same guy who was tying himself in knots earlier, called Clark a new right-wing symbol. He said, "Caitlin Clark started to feel like some sort of new right-wing symbol. White woman dominating the game, dominated by black men and women for years." That's a lot to unpack, right? It's not just about how good Clark is anymore, it's about what she represents to different people. Some see her as just an amazing player, while others see her success as a statement about race in sports. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's making a lot of people uncomfortable. Skip tried to smooth things over by calling Clark's skills colorblind good and guilt-free good. But here's the thing, can talent really be colorblind in a world that isn't? It's like Skip's trying to take race out of the conversation, but that's easier said than done. This whole situation is shining a light on some big issues in sports media. How do we talk about talented players without making it about race? Can we celebrate Clark's skills without ignoring the experiences of black athletes who've dominated the game for years? Skip even admitted, "I know what a powerful point of pride basketball has been to the black community in this country." It's like he's caught between praising Clark and acknowledging the complex history of race in basketball. All this drama isn't just about Clark or Bayless anymore. It's about how we talk about sports, how we see race, and how those two things get all tangled up sometimes. It's making people ask some tough questions about who gets praised in sports and why. Just when you thought the Clark saga couldn't get any crazier, Skip Bayless throws us a curveball. He went from Clark's biggest critic to her biggest fan. But here's the kicker. His flip-flop is making waves far beyond basketball. It's got people asking, can we ever talk about sports without bringing race into it? You know how Skip was all tied up in knots about praising Clark? Well, get this. He's done a complete 180. The guy who couldn't stop criticizing her is now singing her praises. Talk about a plot twist. But why the sudden change of heart? Turns out Skip's been on quite a journey. He started out questioning Clark's competitive spirit, but now he's calling her colorblind good and guilt-free good. That's a big leap, right? It's like Clark's game was so fire, it melted away all of Skip's hangups. But here's where it gets really interesting. Skip's change of tune isn't just about Clark. It's sparked a whole new conversation about race in sports. People are divided. Some are cheering Skip for finally giving Clark her due. Others, they're calling him out for making it about race in the first place. Skip even admitted, "Our country feels split enough racially already. I didn't want to pour gasoline on that fire." But by trying to avoid the fire, did he just end up starting a bigger one? It's got people talking about how we discuss race in sports. And let me tell you, opinions are all over the place. This whole drama is shining a light on some big issues in sports media. How do we talk about talented players without making it about race? Can we celebrate Clark's skills without ignoring the experiences of black athletes who've dominated the game for years? These are tough questions, and there are no easy answers. Skip's journey from critic to fan is making people think hard about how we see race in sports. It's not just about Clark or Bayless anymore. It's about how we talk about sports, how we see race, and how those two things get all tangled up sometimes. But you know what? Maybe this controversy isn't all bad. It's pushing for more thoughtful, inclusive sports commentary. People are starting to realize we need a more nuanced understanding of race in sports. It's like Skip's flip-flop opened up a can of worms, but maybe those worms are exactly what we needed to start cleaning up how we talk about athletes. Alright, let's wrap this up with a game-changing takeaway. Skip's controversy taught us something big. We gotta appreciate talent without getting caught up in race. It's like Skip said, Caitlin Clark is becoming the best player in the league, not because of her race, but due to her exceptional talent. That's what it's all about, folks. So here's the challenge. Next time you're watching a game, try to see past skin color and focus on the skills. Can you do it? It's not always easy, but it's worth it. We need to change how we talk about sports, making sure every player gets a fair shake. Think about it. How can we make sure the next Caitlin Clark is celebrated for her game, not her race? That's the million-dollar question, and we all need to be part of the answer.